All right. So my next guest here, we have been in the same circles, specifically the horror community, for many many years, but I don't think we've actually run into each other out at a convention or a book sign or anything, which is weird.
Yeah, no. Yeah, this is I mean, yeah, obviously we've liked a post or commented on a post of each other throughout the years, but this is the first time we've ever spoken face to face, if you will.
Yeah.
Let alone running into each other at conventions. So yeah, it's nice to finally see you.
Yeah, exactly. I think I'm almost positive. I'm too lazy to look. I think we've been in an anthology or two together over the years as well. So
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I couldn't tell you off the top of my head, but I'm sure. I mean, there's no way it's at throughout these years that we probably haven't.
yeah,
So
I know you've done a lot of work with Crystal Lake, and I've
yeah,
also done a lot of work.
I've had two, I think three things with them previously before the series, the book series that's we're doing now. So yeah.
All right, so there you go. There's a segue. Tell everybody about the book series.
Well, 2 years ago this fall, about this past September, the Erie Brothers and the Witches of Autumn, a middle grade novel that I wrote, came out through a small press called Scary Dairy Press. And then it was a one-off. It was something that, because they usually publish anthologies. So this was a sort of a one-off kind of thing. And so, yeah, talking to Crystal Lake, they want to reprint that book, which will come out sometime in 26 to next year. So I assume springtime probably. Books. Then they contracted me to do books 2, 3, and 4 because it's always been a series. And book 2 will be out sometime probably in later 2026, and then 3 and 4 in 2027. And then I got this one, the new one here, and then I have a short story collection of adult horror and stuff like that, with some poetry, with the publisher now who's reading it. So
That's really good. You're keeping busy. As we were talking before I hit record, you're doing a lot of podcasts and interviews and different things, which is great because I think it's sometimes, especially when you have a new book out, it's a lost part of the equation for authors. A lot of new authors are just like, yeah. I mean, if somebody asks me to go on a podcast, I'm going to. But you seem to be like, hey, I'm concentrating on this is part of the brand. This is part of how I'm going to get my name out there.
yeah, I mean, it's writing is a business. So I think a lot of people don't sort of pay attention to that, or maybe they just don't understand it. They see the writing aspect of it, but then you tend to forget that, yeah, you have to get the book out there. So you got to do podcasts, you want to do radio interviews. If you can get on TV, then great. However, in newspaper articles, I have a local newspaper here in Pittsburgh, in my area, that's going to be putting out a piece on me and my new book. So yeah, it's just part of the process. So you sort of have to fit that into your writing schedule. So over the
Right.
year, you kind of have to know that there's going to be a time where you got to sort of pull back from writing just a little bit and concentrate on the other stuff that helps you get your name and your book and your brand and all that out there.
Do you like outline your plans for say 12 months, 18 months, or whatever?
No, 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 I wish. No, I mean, it's usually a couple months before, I try to, a couple months before I know when the book will be out, I try to set things up. And I start reaching out to people, and people have reached out to me. Um, and so then, that way, you can sort of hit things running right before the book comes out, then while the book's out, and then maybe some stuff after the book's out, and then go back to writing your next book and working on that.
So how's the new book doing so far?
Good. It the official day was Friday, but it dropped. Amazon had it out on Thursday, and from what I know, I've had people send me messages and stuff. And then I of course, when you get a message, I had to go check it out, and under psychological horror category, it reached number 15 under bestsellers, and then it's been sitting at under new releases in psychological horror since Thursday. It's been at number 1.
Oh wow.
So yeah, and I got Garth Marenghi right behind me right now, sneaking up the backstretch. So so that's I love him and all that stuff. So I'm kind of thrilled about that, really.
Yeah. I grabbed the copy. I haven't read your book yet, but it was the cover alone was interesting enough.
Yeah. Journal Stone Publishing, who put it out, they came to me, Scarlett, who was the editing, and she does a lot of work there for them, and acquisitions editor and stuff like that. She just came to me and said, do you have some ideas for the cover artist? And I went, well, yeah, I kind of and I sort of wrote down some stuff, and I gave it to her, and she gave it to him, and he nailed what I was wanting, so it worked out. I mean, I wanted a Alfred Hitchcock vibe, was what I wanted. And I think he pulled it off. So I think it's a great cover, and it's simplistic. And then there's, on the cover, it has a shattered heart, and it has a question mark in the head. And so that's all symbolism for inside the book and stuff. So yeah, I like it. I dig it.
Yeah. And sometimes, that simpler cover, it just hits you as a reader. It just hits you more because you're looking at that and you're going, okay, what does this mean? Instead of there's 40 million colors and different things and all over the cover.
And I'm a big proponent, or at least personally I am. I don't go around looking at book covers and judging them or anything like that. But and it's the same thing with the Erie Brothers. I want something that's sort of action on the cover, and not just a person standing there sort of staring off at whatever. You know what I mean? Right. So because action, if you can get something that looks like there's action happening, then it will pull you in, and then you'll start to maybe question things and look at it closely and that.
So where did the original idea for the book come from?
This book, I started this book in 2010, and I finished it in 2013.
Oh wow!
It's been sitting in my computer for a very long time, because since it's fairly dark, and I wasn't sure if I released it upon the world, how would it be taken. And so it was my Seton Hill University thesis novel, because I went there for my master's in writing popular fiction.
Oh wow.
And so it's just, I don't remember how I came up with it. It just sort of, I guess it probably came to me somehow. I had probably a few ideas for a novel to write, and that's the one I chose. And it's funny because, it has like 54 chapters, but it's only like 53,000 words, it's so it moves fast. And so back then it was called Cole's Run, meaning the last name of the main character, his name is Cole, C-O-L-E. The road that his old farmstead that he grew up in, and he doesn't recall a whole lot about, up in like 4 hours outside of Pittsburgh, up in the mountains, a small little town. It sits on a road called Coal Run Road. And here in Pittsburgh, there's quite a few roads that are named like that. Coal Run Road. Coal Run Road's not a real one, but something Run Road, or right. Whatever. There's 2 or 3 right near me right now. And that's because the word run, in the title, it's an action, but also a run means a small creek, really small creek that connects to a bigger creek. So back during when they were they were coming through for the Revolutionary War, they would set up camps along these little creeks, and then hence the name, came, Sawmill Run Boulevard is one that's right down the road from me and all that stuff. So right, if you're, so I had several reasons for that, but then in 2012, I think their album dropped in 2000, and I should have thanked them in the book, but I didn't. It didn't. I don't know why. Testament had a new album called Dark Roots, and it's a great album. And they have a song called Dark Roots or something like that, I think. And it's a great song. And so when I thought about it, I went, Dark Roots, this book's about family. It's about dark secrets. It's about not knowing who you are, not knowing who the people that you love are. And so I
Right.
changed it to Dark Roots, and then, it's been that ever since. But then I added, from how the book originally ends, which is sitting at Seton Hill's library. People can go there and see the original book. I added the last chapter, which will be the testament of of what people will think, because but I'm proud of the way I ended it, and I can't say what it is, but I have reasons for it, and so eventually maybe in an interview somebody will ask me and I can finally explain why. But
Right. It's funny because I use a ton of, if it wasn't for heavy metal bands, I probably wouldn't have half of my book titles.
Yeah.
And as an added bonus, I'm drinking the Testament coffee from Concept Coffee right now.
Oh, okay, all right. Well, look at that then.
There's a tie-in.
Yeah, I should have thanked them. I don't know. I'll maybe reprint down the road. I will, but
Right. So do you get a lot of that? Is it a lot of, you're listening to a song and it's a title, or it's lyrics, or it's a feel?
No. I rarely use music or song as a title for a novel or a story. I know, like Paul Tremblay. What was this book called? He used one book where every chapter was a song.
Right.
Can't remember the band, but which I kind of thought was pretty cool. But no, I don't. I mean, I listen to music when I write. Like if I go to the coffee shop and I'm without music, and I can't write in that environment. Like, I don't know why, but I can throw on music and just have it loud in my ears, and I can write, but the music fades away and I don't hear it.
Right.
I don't know what it is, but sometimes I'll listen to soundtracks for movies as sort of to get me in a certain mood. If I want to write a certain scene and I know it needs to be suspenseful or something, I'll pull out some sort of music that sort of gets me in that mood. But other than that, I don't really use music titles really a lot. This was the first time that's happened.
I use it a lot. I have no imagination. I use tons of ideas I get from lyrics, and maybe not exactly word for word the lyric, but that feel of that. And I always have to have music playing, but it's got to be something that I know.
Yeah.
Like if I get like, the New Testament that comes out, I'm like, I want to sit down and listen to this. I'll do emails and stuff while I'm listening to something new that came out. But I'm also like, you know what? I'm just going to write this book, and I'm going to put like the first couple of Testament albums on, because I've heard them a billion times.
Yeah.
Growing up. So it's not that big of a deal. It just kind of becomes background noise.
Yeah.
I don't have to listen to the lyrics. I don't have to listen to the music. I know, where the parts are. And so that really just helps me. Like you said, I can't sit here. If my wife is home, I got to put headphones on when I'm writing, or I'm just, if I go out somewhere, I don't care if they're playing, the Backstreet Boys. It's got to be some kind of noise.
Yeah.
In the background, or that just drives me nuts.
Yeah. I don't know why that is, but it's just, it's how I operate. And then there's times where my kids have come into the room and I have music going on and I'm writing, but I'm in the world that I'm writing that I don't realize that they're standing there next to me, and then of course you get pulled out, and then it's like, it's like you've been asleep for a good while. It's like, because you're like, whoa, okay.
And you look at them and you want to say, is somebody dead? Is somebody bleeding? Otherwise, why are you bothering me? That's what I used to do when my kids were younger. I'd be like, unless it's crazy important, like, I don't care. Yes, you can make a piece of toast. Just don't bother me on that stuff. You're taking me out of the zone that I'm in right now. To write this stuff. And my wife is, we've been together 13 years and married 10. So she'll come to the door and I'll see her at the corner of my eye. But if I'm typing, she knows, okay, unless it's something super important, she'll just go away.
Yeah.
And then a few minutes later, I'm like, all right, what's going on? And she doesn't get like offended that because she knows that I'm working.
Yeah.
I think that's important to have that. You know, I talk to so many writers. I've hung out with so many writers that their spouses just don't like what they're doing. This is like taken away from them. It's a jealousy. It's you're wasting your time stuff. And I did that for many years on previous wives, and that was not fun.
Yeah, I don't. I've never. I mean, my wife is never. She's. She knows she's been. I've been doing this for so long that it's not like it's an issue or anything. So
Yeah, which is good. And you are the you and I are the rarities in all this, which is I think insane.
yeah, I mean, it could, you sort of have to. I mean, there's kind of a point where you have to decide when it comes, especially in a relationship, is it's either you choose this or you choose that, and it's like, I'm still a dad and all that stuff, but as they got, of course, they're older now. When they were younger, I wrote while they were sleeping.
Yeah,
But now they all know, and the kids, they rarely come in anymore, and they know when my door's shut, they don't come in or things like that. So they all get it. So lucky in that way.
which is good. And then I get lucky because then they all get older and they all move out.
Yeah, well, mine are still fairly young. They're early teens, so I got a while before that.
You got a little ways. It's lonely not to have them around sometimes, but then it's also, hey, this is really nice because I can walk around during the day in my underwear and I can blast friggin' anything I want it at full volume.
Well, and I've also had kids at a much later age too. So by now, if I would have had them in my early 20s, by now they'd all be in their late 20s and out the house. But now they're early teens. So
yeah, my youngest is she's 25 now.
Yeah,
so
mine are 13. So
yeah, so there definitely is that difference. All right, so who are some of the authors that initially inspired you to start writing?
Well, we all know Stephen King's there. Edgar Allan Poe was there early age. But it was a combination of those two, specifically those two at a very early age. And then there was a writer by the name of Robert C. Wilson. And I only read one book by him. I don't even know if he's ever had any other books out. I think I was like 9, I think. 1980 it came out. So yeah, my aunt used to work at the local library in the town I grew up. And so after school, or even on weekends, I'd go to the library when she was working and then talk to her because I knew that's where my aunt was. But then I would also ask her what books were out, and I would ask her about certain authors, that I heard about. And then one day, because she lived on the next street behind me, so I just walked to my backyard, through her backyard to the house, and she got me from the library a book called The Crooked Tree by Robert C. Wilson. Came out in 1980. As a person who once wanted to teach Native American history and all that stuff as a kid, I read about Wounded Knee and all that stuff. I was really reading a lot about that stuff. And so this book has Native American lore, shape shifting, horror, fantasy, all this stuff. And so I read that, and then I was like, oh, what else can I read?
Yeah.
And then my mom gave me all her paperback Stephen King, and then she had Poe. But then at the same time, I'm reading comic books, especially reprints of Vault of Horror and Tales from the Crypts, Creep, And then I was watching, we used to have in Ohio, I grew up, and on Saturday nights after the news, there was these show where they show horror films, and they had these horror hosts, if you will. And so I'd watch that, and then I was watching Twilight Zone. And then I was a latchkey kid, so my mom would just, on weekends, specifically like a Friday night, Saturday night, she would just rent me all these like 8 movies. They'd always be horror. What she thought, the cool cover. If it was a cool cover, she'd grab it. If she thought I would like it. And then some kung fu movies, and so I watched that. And then she, at an early age, she would, we'd watch horror films because she liked horror. Even though her favorite author was John Grisham at the time. But so all of that combined is sort of what, led me into writing.
Right.
And plus, my own history of dealing with death, I think was just a part of it. It's just something that's sort of in me. So I gravitated towards the dark side a lot faster than probably most people. And so, yeah, you combine all that, and then I just said, I want to do this, And then, obviously I'd go to see horror films and stuff like that as a kid because I knew the owner of the local theater. So I went and saw Nightmare on Elm Street, at 12 years old or whatever it was, by myself in the theater, rated R film. So I got to see a lot of movies that way. So, yeah, you combine all that and then you have a writer. It's different for everybody, obviously, but that's just the way it worked for me.
What's funny is that what you just described, if you switched Dean Koontz and Stephen King out, basically it's the same stuff that I grew up on. It was the same, and I'm going to be 56 in a few days. So,
okay, happy birthday!
Yeah, so I remember those. Growing up in the '80s when you were watching all these great horror movies and all these great books, and everything was coming out like all at once. It was just, and I think that's created a lot of us in our 50s that are that wrote horror growing up.
Yeah, the 80s, man, you could. There would be horror cartoons on Saturday mornings. There would be boxes of cereal with horror things. There would be toys that are all just straight up horror you could buy. Nowadays you don't see a lot of that stuff. They don't make stuff like that no more. It was definitely an era that was primed to raise more horror writers or horror filmmakers or horror comic book artists or whatever. Nowadays, kids, they don't have that, to sort of get them started. Obviously they can pick up books by Stephen King, which a lot of kids do,
Right.
And get started that way. But they, it's just, it's, definitely not the same. And, I don't want to be one of those guys that says back in my day, but it's just true. Today doesn't sort of lay the seeds in the kids like that, like they used to,
Well, I think there's so much within easy reach for them. They pick up their phone and there's a billion things. I grew up because my mother read horror paperbacks.
Yeah.
And so anything with a giant spider on it, anything with a zombie, anything, she was handing me after she read it and I was reading it. She loved horror movies. So we would sit down and watch all the horror movies together and stuff. So it wasn't like, if I wanted a new book, I had to wait for her to buy a new book, or I had to save my pennies and then go and then look, because there was no internet to, hey, let me look up and see what the new Dean Koontz book is. You just went and you hope that they had it.
Well, and that's really true, because since kids these days have so much at their fingertips, that it doesn't allow you to focus on certain things, because your time is just being pulled here. Your attention span is short. And so you don't have time to sort of discover something and then lean into that and find what it is that you like about it so much. And then, take that and help grow it from your own experiences and become whatever that's going to become. You can't go to a video store and just look at covers all night until you find the coolest one you could find and then grab that movie, or go to the bookstore. We have bookstores, but we used to have bookstores, everywhere. Same thing with records. You go to the record store and you just, that tactile world just isn't what it used to be. And visually too. You just don't have the stuff that grabs your attention like that and sort of puts a seed into you, and you're like, oh, I'm going to do that, and then you go off and do it. Just like some of the rock stars we have, who would have a favorite band, and then, because of that band, they wanted to start their own band, and they'd start learning how to play and go in the garage, and then, and sort of, learn on the fly and grow into it and become something down the road.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, I mean, yeah, I guess we shouldn't do the old man get off my lawn thing, but it's, way different from when my kids like something, now it's just totally different. Like I've told this story many times. I can remember being 12 years old and my buddy Eric Goldberg come over to my house and he put on Iron Maiden Number of the Beast. And it was literally a life-changing moment for me. Yeah. I'd never heard anything. I was listening to Billy Squier and Joan Jett and Jay Giles band and stuff like that up until that point. And once you put that album on, I could not get enough of that stuff. And Iron Maiden, Judas Priest, and then you move into Slayer, Metallica, Testament. You move up and you start wanting to listen to everything. But it was word of mouth. It was, what are you listening to? A buddy of mine brought, here's an EP from a band that just Queensryche. All right, let me listen to this. All right, let me go to the record store and buy this cassette because I love this stuff.
Yeah.
So it was different than just, how it is now.
And you would, I can't tell you how many times I went to the record store and bought the same cassette several times because I wore it out so bad that I had to keep buying it. But kids these days, they have, they all want to do something else. They want to be something else, and they have the technology, they have the avenues to help them reach whatever that may be. So it's just, the world has shifted to, something far more different. So, and they'll be the same way, their kids, they're going to be like, well, in my day, I had the internet and I could, we had YouTube and we had TikTok and blah, 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 so it's just same game, different name,
Yeah. True.
But I'm definitely a tactile person. I miss just going and, staring at stuff in the stores, and which is why, like you, I have stuff all in my room, that because we grew up keeping things, collecting and having, and stuff like that, baseball cards and comic books, and you collected them, and now collecting is not, at least not what it used to be.
Well, collecting now is how much is this worth? I mean, you're not really collecting because you want to complete sets and whatnot, or your favorite players. You're collecting because this card is going to be worth
something,
somewhere down the line.
I have on that wall over there, I have well over 500 action figures that have never been opened from late 80s, Star Wars and Spider-Man, and a lot of horror stuff. And there's Star Wars stuff, or even X-Men, and then I'll go to the store today, like at Target, and I'll see basically the same figure sold in, obviously new packaging and stuff. And it's, I paid, $3 or whatever it was for mine, and they're selling it for 30. I'm like, that's, then I become an old man. I'm like, you crazy? Like, I would never pay that money for that. You know what I mean? It's like,
I have a, this is my office. I have a lot of stuff in this office, but a lot of it was given to me by friends, family, fans. And because it's the same thing. I'm like, this looks really cool, but I'm not paying $30 for and it's going to stay in the box. Everything stays in the box for me.
And I'm like that with it. Once in a while, I'll spend the money, but for the most part, like I still have all my old cassette tapes from when I was a kid in the 80s. I still have all my ticket stubs from the concerts that I've been through. But like I'll see a Metallica album at Barnes and Noble, Kill 'Em All, and it's $30. And I mean, I'm like, I got the cassette and I paid like $4.99 for it.
Right. Yeah. And at that point, paying $5 for that was like, oh
yeah. I had the original cassette. Like,
yeah.
why would I want to buy a redo in far more money? It's like, yeah. So, but obviously it's 30 years later, 40 years later, and the prices go up, and the
Yeah,
medium is different, and all that stuff. But still,
it's funny. All right, last question for you. Who are some of the writers out there that more people need to be reading?
um, my buddy Tom Erb, he has a new book coming out next month from Journal Stone Publishing. People should pick up his new book when it comes out, Snow Black. Um, I'm a fan of Gabino Iglesias. I always tell people to pick up his stuff.
Yeah.
And obviously, I tell people to every time somebody wants to read a really cool book or something, I always point them to Paul Tremblay. Um, um, or man, what's his name? I just forgot his name, and I know it's Buffalo Hunter Jones.
Stephen Graham Jones.
Yes, yeah, I love his stuff. I'm always telling people to grab his stuff. Him and Paul Tremblay, I usually point people right away.
Yeah.
In Gabino, but then I always point people to, always older, Shirley Jackson, I love. I've even thrown Raymond Chandler out there to people. When I have, and also, yeah, blah, 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 blah. I can't. Mexican Gothic. That's a great book. Moreno Garcia.
Yeah, Moreno Garcia. Yeah.
Yeah.
That is a good book. Yeah.
Yeah. I always point people to that book because that's a really great book, and she's a hell of a writer. But whenever I have new people, younger writers, or people who want to write and whatnot, or maybe have been writing but want more information or advice, I always tell them to go back to the beginning and read what became before them. Like, kind of know your history.
Yeah.
And now obviously, if you want to write horror, then at least go back, and sort of know the history, so go back and read older stuff. Well, from Poe to Shelley's vampire, not Mary Shelley, but her husband. So just sort of see where it came from and to where it is now. Same thing if you were to do science fiction, you could do the same thing, but and I always tell people, don't read in the genre that they want to write. Read everything. Yeah. Because nowadays, no matter what you write, it's cross genre. You're writing more than one genre within your book. You might not realize it, but you probably are.
Yeah. And that's good, because your publisher is your publishing company, they're going to want to not just go, here's a horror book. They're going to want to say, well, this is got suspense. This is thriller. This is some side, this is other things. So they can try to pull in as many people as possible to buy your book.
Well, also, you want to, if you write only horror and you have an agent and they're like, hey, science fiction is taking off right now, think you can write a science fiction book and, we can try to sell it. And you're like, well, I don't read science fiction, so I don't know anything about it. Then you sort of just lost a job, if you will. So the more you read outside of what you want to write, the better you'll be off.
Yeah, definitely. All right, man. It was great talking to you. It was great finally to
yeah, you too.
To technically be in the same room with you. Maybe someday we'll be out there together somewhere.
Yeah.
We can talk about Testament.
Yeah, I have my old cassette, the black, I can't think today, but what's it called? It came out right after Souls of Black.
Yeah.
I had that cassette and I've lost it, but it was autographed. And so I don't know where it's at. And it's been irritating me for about 5 years now. So it's like,
See, back in the day when I was a teenager, I would do tape trading.
yeah,
So I would get, like, when they were legacy, I would get the legacy demo, and listen to them back then and everything. And yeah, I still listen. I still listen to all that stuff. My wife, it drives her nuts. She's born here in Jacksonville, Florida, and she's a country music fan. So we
yeah.
are completely different on what we listen to, which is funny.
All right.
All right, man. Thanks for coming on, and I will talk to you later.
Yeah, thank you very much.